To me, video games have always been larger than life. They feature characters with amazing abilities doing impossible things. But even when you look past the fantastical elements in games such as magic, the supernatural, or anything else obviously divorced from our real world, I still get that larger-than-life feeling from most video game characters. And I think that's because by real-world standards, most video game characters, even the ones meant to be like regular people, are basically superheroes. Think about it. Video game characters can do and endure much more than any real person. Take platformers for instance. Even if you remove all special abilities like dashes, you still have a person who can jump several times their standing height. I don't know about you, but even when I was in the best shape of my life, I wasn't jumping 15 feet into the air. Or what about shooters where the characters can basically shrug off bullet wounds like they're nothing? In real life, even non-lethal shots are gonna hurt, they're gonna slow you down. And consider respawn mechanics. They're overwhelmingly common in video games for both the player and the enemies, but in real life nobody would be saying, "Oh neat, Lazarus earned enough points to get a bonus life." No, that shit becomes biblical. Even intelligence is heightened in video games. Consider that player characters can master pretty much any and every skill on offer. A lot of times this can be done in just a few hours. In any Elder Scrolls game, you can become a true master of several types of melee combat, archery, every school of magic, become a mastersmith, craft some of the most powerful potions and enchantments in existence, and get so good at sleight of hand that you can literally steal the shirt off someone's back. Any one of those skills is something that can take a lifetime of constant practice and dedication to truly master, even for somebody with a natural gift. And let's be clear, it's not just the player character that has these superhuman characteristics. The non-player characters, allies, enemies, and neutrals alike often share these same characteristics. Even something as simple as a health bar is pretty incredible once you consider its implications. In real life, it's not like you have a set limit of how much of a beating you can take with no repercussions until something finally kills you. Well, unless you're on PCP. As you get hurt, you become weaker, and the pain becomes harder and harder to endure. Most people will reach a breaking point long before they die. A health bar allows the video game character to persist with their full strength until their bodies fail them completely. That's kinda terrifying if that character is trying to kill you. So why is this so common in video games? It makes perfect logical sense in stories with fantastical magic and otherworldly abilities, but this persists even in the most realistic of video games. And the answer is a lot less philosophical than I've kinda been hyping it up to be. Game design and balance. Quite frankly, exaggerated elements tend to make for a better gaming experience, and when a game is too realistic, it can actually work to its deficit. Let's take a look at Mafia 2, and I'll go on record saying that the only good thing about this game is the story, and that's only because half of it is a Godfather ripoff. One of the big problems I had with the game was how gunplay worked. See, when you take damage, you can recover up to a certain point by not getting hit for a while, and you can only field a full with healing items. Well, in hard mode, it's possible for an enemy bullet to deal more damage than the maximum recovery point. This means you can get killed pretty much any point during an extended fight with zero counterplay, as taking cover only works until you need to take a shot. Now, here's the thing. That aspect of the game is probably the most realistic part of the game. In real life, if you're in a gunfight and you get hit by a bullet, there's a good chance that you're just dead. But that doesn't make for a very fun gaming experience. In fact, it was extremely frustrating and I didn't even want to finish the game. Even 4 years later, I have no desire to go back. And that's the thing, video games require a degree of flexibility in order to be fun. Getting killed instantly generally isn't fun unless it's the consequence of not countering a specific telegraphed mechanic. In games with any type of combat, even those known for their difficulty such as Dark Souls or Cuphead, you have that freedom to make mistakes and not be completely screwed over by it even if you're meant to be heavily punished. And to give you this flexibility, the developers must by necessity make the character more durable than a regular person could ever hope to be. And the reverse applies to your enemies too. Unless the game is specifically designed around hordes of enemies, it's not usually very fun when you can just cleave through every threat on the map with a single button press. So the NPCs need a little bit of a durability boost as well, with realistic instant kills typically being given out as a reward for skill and progression. A few examples of this would be headshot kills rewarding precision, and stealth kills rewarding the ability to avoid detection. You get this sense of accomplishment when you score an instant kill on an enemy due to your own skill in the game. When you quickly take out an enemy by shooting them in the head rather than spraying and praying, it feels really good and you get to eliminate a threat quickly. And that sense of accomplishment only exists because you can't just kill them as easily as you could kill a regular, boring human. I mean, if you shoot somebody in the chest in real life, there's a good chance they're going to be out of the fight, whereas in most video games, a body shot will not be lethal unless they're extremely weak or the gun is extremely powerful. But of course, durability, the capacity to take damage without weakening or dying, is just one piece of the puzzle. In addition to being absolute tanks, video game characters seem to possess actual superpowers pretty much all the time. Oftentimes this is represented simply as greatly enhanced athletic abilities, and by greatly enhanced I mean far better than even the best real-world athlete. Let's take a look at one of my favorite games, Celeste. Now, even before Madeline gains the ability to dash, she can already jump higher than any Olympic athlete, she can already climb up sheer walls like fucking Spider-Man. And even as she traverses this massive mountain with her not very thick winter coat, the most we see the elements affecting her is when the wind is blowing hard enough to impede or boost her movement. Just take a moment to think about your favorite video game. Chances are the player character is able to do things physically that should be difficult or even impossible, even for those in peak physical condition. So how does this affect the game as an experience and as a story? Is it better to bring attention to it, or simply hope that the player doesn't really care? Well, I've seen both strategies, and honestly, they both work. Typically speaking, when you just kind of ignore the superhuman elements of your characters, it usually falls under suspension of disbelief, and in some cases it can actually fit the tone of the game. But I do appreciate when the writers take some effort to explain why your character can be so impressive, even if it's a simple explanation like, that's how people are in this world. Let's look at Runescape, which has been one of my favorites for years. In Runescape, the player has several superhuman traits, many of which are only fully realized as they train up their skills. During your adventures, you'll slay demons and dragons by the thousands. As few as 2 players can team up to fight and kill Virago, an ancient and powerful creature who killed a goddess. And this goddess was known as the World Devourer. She literally destroyed and ate worlds. And of course, you never truly die. You may lose all your life points, but you always get up to fight another day. This is mostly explained. For starters, it's pretty well established that humans in this world can train themselves to a fairly high degree of power, much higher than in the real world. But that's not all. Due to the player's role in the story of RuneScape, they are too important to be left to die. So Death himself refuses to ferry you into the afterlife. Additionally, all beings in this world have an immense capacity to absorb and utilize power, and I mean true power. Many of the gods of RuneScape started out as mere mortals. The god Zamorak was one such instance. His ascension came when he betrayed the god Zaros, attacking him and absorbing much of his power. So what's the point of this? Well, during this story, the player character is granted a degree of power by the god Guthix, who then designates them the World Guardian. This power confers near immunity to godly power, and the player is just a regular human at this point. An accomplished warrior, sure, but still just a regular human. The point I'm trying to make is that these are things that could have simply been ignored. I'm sure it wouldn't be immersion breaking if it were just a case of, things aren't real in this fantasy world. But it's really cool when there's an actual reason for all this stuff. Of course, you can still engage with a game even if its unnatural elements are never explained. The lorehounds like me just appreciate that extra bit of effort. But really, what's the point of this whole video? What larger argument am I making, and how am I trying to better understand the world of gaming? Well, the truth is, I'm not doing any of that. I noticed this cool little tidbit and my brain went on overdrive. To me, video games have this magic to them. There are so many little elements that make video games so fascinating and keep me hooked even after 2 decades of gaming. When my mind latches onto something, when the gears start spinning, there's no stopping them until I work through all my thoughts. And I hope that today you enjoyed this look at those thoughts. Even more than that, I hope they made sense. My videos are usually a little bit more focused than this, and they can be pinned down to a single topic, a single idea. I don't usually make videos out of my mental rambles, but let me know if you like this or not. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed the video, please leave a like or a comment because those things please the almighty algorithm. And of course, subscribe if you want to see more. Follow me on Twitter at AdsTweets for updates and memes, and follow me on Twitch at AdsGames for the occasional live stream. Well, with all that being said, thank you all for watching, and I'll see you next Monday.
Hit the road, Jack, and don't you come back no more, no more, no more, no more. Hit the road, Jack, and don't you come back.